All right, everyone. I think we're ready to move in to our last presenters for today. So, to finish up today, we have Kevin Neal and Diane Van Wyk from Valley High School.
Thank you. Well, we wanted to just introduce a little bit on Quizalize. I don't know, are there people that have been, oh, yeah, I gotta use that, sorry. Are there some people that have been on Quizalize and do some things on that? Okay, so maybe a couple. We've done Quizizz and Quizlet for quite a while. And we've dumped a lot of information on there. But as we have gone into trying to get more formative assessment information, not only for us, but for our students, we found that Quizalize does a really nice job. It gives you a ton of information. So if you can go to Quizalize right now, if you have not already, I'm going to make you take a quiz. Isn't that mean of me? But I want you to see how easy this is to use, but then, and Kevin will share a little bit more about this, how much information you can get from it when you go. So, and they can do this on their phones, or we'll just, have laptop cards typically. And then this is what I would put up for my students because they get used to doing it. They know I'll just say, go to Quizlize. And then I tell them to put in the code, and you should see a little box, or up in the top if you go back to the just the first place. You can even do the student start here, but that's where you need that code. So you want NTR 2523. And Kevin and I and some of the other people in our department, so we're using these in a lot of different ways. Like, yes, we might use this for review when we get ready for a test. We might use this, I've even done like reading note checks on this. And so I'll just put very specific questions about what they should have read for the day. And oh, by the way, will you purposefully answer one thing wrong? Or at least even if a few of you do, then we'll get to see how that comes up. There's just 3 questions on there. So, final review, I teach AP, and so getting ready for the AP exam. And so there's just a lot of ways that you can use this. You can put visuals in. I did not do it on this. I'll probably put more on kind of the second time around. But you can see on the fair question, you can even put in an explanation, and I like that. And then the other thing that I really love about this particular screen, if you've got the kid in the back that doesn't think that they can do, they're doing something else on their computer right now, I can see that they aren't answering questions, and it will also show me if they were inactive for 2 minutes, and then it also gives me a note, like it'll actually be right there by their name, and then inactive for 10 minutes. So that's when I very politely say, are you having trouble, Joey, getting in? And it's basically get going and Now, I will say, if it offends you, you are getting a total point score for your team. That never offends me. So I don't have a problem with that. My students don't either, but they don't know necessarily each other's individual scores. The other thing is, you can choose to see how, like you can say they can only take this once. So if I did a note check score, I just have it set up so they can only do it once. But if we're reviewing and I'm trying to get them ready for an exam, you can take this, I don't care how many times. So you can just put unlimited, or you can say 2 times or 3 times. All of that is in there. If they try it, like some of you are trying it for the second time, it'll have a 2 by your name. It'll say try 2, but it won't add your points to the top score. But it doesn't matter how many times. And then you can set this as homework, or you can also set this as just we're playing it today in class. And so if you want them to have access, for the next week, whenever they want to get on, they can do it. And then they can access as much as they want. So, Kevin, I'll kind of turn things over to you then if you want to share a little bit more. Well, anybody have any questions on what you're seeing up on the screen? And that's literally how easy, this thing is so easy, and that's why I love it. Because you can do it really quick, you can make them very quickly.
A couple of things then with the timeline on tests. You can set it for work today. If you want to set it in advance for homework, they'll call it, just meaning you can do it inside of class or outside of class. It essentially gives you a hotel calendar. That is, you can set it to be for any time during the next year. So in about 3 months from now, 2 months from now, I will put a large number of quizzes into an AP folder that have all of the topics from the entire school year. What's nice then is students can look at that and say, Gilded Age, oh my God, the Gilded Age, I still have nightmares about it. I remember that. But this topic, I have no clue. I'm going to go in and take that quiz. Second, the other thing you can do when you make the quiz available, you can say 1 try. You can say 2 tries. You can say 6 tries. You can say mastery. If I'm giving a long quiz, let's say it's 25 questions, and they get 19 correct on the first time, if it's on mastery mode, the other 6 will come up correct. Will come back again, and they will have to answer those questions until they get them correct. So there are lots of different options of how you can assign it, thus making it possible for formative assessment, or in both United States history and in advanced placement. I use it a lot for optional assignments. So I might put out 3 quizzes and say, you're taking it once. There's a total of 15 questions. If you get at least 10 right, I'll give you 5 points, 5 out of 5. And for those of you who are happy with your grade or you get these topics, don't do it. I'll simply put NA, not applicable in Infinite Campus. And so throughout the semester, particularly as we get to the end of the quarters, students will say, Mr. Neal, can we have some more optional assignments in Quizalize? I'm like within 0.8 of a point. Oh, absolutely. You'd like another optional quiz that you can take on antebellum era. Yeah, I fully support that. And the 4 other students sitting in the row next to you, they're fine. They don't need it. They get the topic. Their grade's fine. So they can self-differentiate without me having to do any great deal of work. Just a couple things on the setup then. There's the web mix that you have the link to. Up here in the corner are mostly things provided by Quizalize. Their PowerPoint, their presentation, kind of a how-to, and they're pretty good. Then here is just some quick examples of data as you will see it. So then, once I log in, I'll see a list of all of my quizzes. And the thing I like about Quizalize, teaching regular US and AP US, I like Quizlet, but I think it's mostly for student studying. I like Quizizz a lot. How many people use Quizizz? And what you know and I like about it is you can go and search every quiz that anyone else has made and take questions from them question by question. So if you need a Quizizz on the Cold War, you can go from no to 40 questions in about half hour. The challenge I had with those is, one, if I had a lot of text, the text just got smaller. They provided a limited amount of computer space. And I teach AP US, we have quotes. We have quotes in regular US. We have a lot of stimulus-based questions. Second, if you put a political cartoon or a map in there, then sometimes it would put the question on top of the cartoon, which made it even harder to figure out. So on these quizzes, as I put text in, the screen just gets bigger. The text never gets smaller. If it's a big cartoon, the screen just gets bigger. The cartoon never gets smaller. So, as Diane said, the opportunity for the diagnostics they provide is really important, but also that it will allow you to provide really high quality stimulus-based questions. So when I say a quiz, mine are about 4 or 5 questions. They're modeled after AP US, but I use them in US too, where there's a stimulus of some type, a quote, a chart, a map, a cartoon, and 3, 4, 5 questions. So I've got, I think 100 odd something questions, quizzes rather. When I go to assign the quiz, I'll have then, you can see on these 2 slides, a bunch of different options. How long do you want to assign it for? How many times do you want them to take it? Do you want it to be mastery? Do you want them to have to take it again and again until they get it correct? So there are a relatively large number of ones. Do you want it to randomize the question order? One of the nice things about both Quizizz and Quizalize is it randomizes the question order. So if I want to give this for a score during class, and I have 28 students sitting in US history with their Chromebooks up, they can all be taking the same quiz, and they're not going to cheat on it. They can't. In Quizizz, you can even randomize the answer order. But the order of the questions is randomized. So if you just want to give this as a quick score in class, and it's scored when the last person is done, you can do that too. So those are some of the several options that you have in settings.
You could use a timer or not use a timer as well. Just a couple more of the settings that I know I like. I like timers occasionally, but if I'm going to have them review and want them to go back, I want them to take some time, so I'm fine with that. The other thing is there's an option too, like if they get something wrong, that it'll go back to that question again. And so, it kind of repeats what they got wrong. And then the other thing is it will let you combine your quizzes too. So when you get to the end of the semester, you can combine things, and that's nice. It does let you download from Quizlet. We have not found great success with that. Once it comes in, it just is a little different form, and it's a little bit difficult to use, but you can try it. I just don't like it when I have tried to do that.
One other plus for the Quizalize people themselves, this site is only a year and change old. They're barely open. The person that said they talked with Microsoft or Google engineers, the little question thing down the bottom, Quizalize says they'll get back to you in 48 hours. My experience has been they'll get back to you in about 3 hours, and then they'll ask if you want to Skype someday this week. They are incredibly aggressive. The only challenge that we have with them is they're also very much in London. And so it's good to talk to them in the morning. The other thing is I know they have a United States footprint, but they often forget. One of the people Diane and I were talking about when we said we were going to present said, "Hey, this is great, Kevin. I'd really like to meet you. Why don't you stop over?" And I said, "I'm in Iowa, in the United States of America." She said, "Well, maybe next time you're in London." When you go into Quizalize, you make a class. So you can see here that these are some of my classes. Team history was optional quizzes I threw at the end of the semester for AP. So I wanted to make it available to all 4 of my AP US classes. But then I have AP classes. There's a psych class. Down here further in the screen, there'd be a US class. You can do that however you want. If you have 3 sections of a class, make it one big group. Make them different sections. And there'll be some reason for that in just a second. So there are my classes. When I open up a class, I see all the activities that I've assigned to it. So without going into the quiz, I can see how many people have taken it. The color code is how each of them did. As one of my Indian students mentioned there was some bias in this. White is the highest score, gold is next, and red is the lowest. So, but it'll tell you how each did. Then I could click and get results so I can see what has been done in each class. I can look at subtopics on an individual quiz, and this is really where Quizalize wins. Each question I can identify by any subtopic I want. In both AP and US history, the big subtopics are knowledge, contextualization, analysis or interpretation, and synthesis. So I can look at the questions and say, how did each do? Okay, on this small segment, we did quite well on knowledge and the worst on synthesis, which is what we would expect. So I can make up whatever designation I want, designate the questions that way, and get feedback accordingly. This is what a single quiz would look like. This was, for me, a very, very long quiz. There's 12 questions. So as per request from Heartland, we whited out the students' names. They would be there. This was their score. I had it from lowest ascending to highest. That's your choice. You can do it however you want. This is each question. And the check mark is they got it correct. The red mark is they got it wrong. So I can see that, and this is all, of course, immediately. Then this was just added in the last couple of months. For me, this is really big. So if in AP US History, a month from now, I have 10 quizzes in, I will. This is the gradebook view. So again, the students are whited out here. That is each quiz, and that's the student score on it. So that makes it much easier. I could have my laptop sitting there, sitting at my desktop, and transfer the grades over an Infinite Campus pretty easily.
Just one thing on that too. This is where you could also benefit from pre-test, post-test, like lining those two up. Or let's say they've struggled the first time and then you might give them another quiz on the same content, or like different maybe questions, but same content, and then you have a really quick way to just compare their scores. How did we do? And so, and they know this then too. I mean, all of this they can access. So I'm hoping that at the secondary level, we're really trying to get them to kind of assess their own learning as well in this process, but we can definitely do that too.
And I didn't print one out because I don't use it with my short little quizzes. But there is a pre-post that is in the same place where I'm getting these other reports. It can say compare scores. You can click on that and choose the quiz they took in September, and then when they retook it in November, and it will do the comparison for you student by student. And then I'll give it back to Diane for the marketplace.
Okay, if you want to go to just that first page, is just quizalize.com, because I want you to do this. Let's see if I'm in the right place. I need to go back here. But if you just are here, and up at the top it says Marketplace. And if you just click on Marketplace, this is similar to Quizlet, and really all of them have some kind of option for this, but you can search what's already in there. And so that's a nice function. Now, what Kevin said, they're relatively new, so you've got to be a little bit patient, and you might be a little bit surprised what all they have on there. But here's your search box up here, so you can put in whatever you want. And you can see the kinds of things on here. Now, the other thing that might surprise you, you can see that there are free things or there are things that cost, because teachers can just, give their quizzes out. And by the way, you can make your quizzes or whatever you put on here public or private. But I just always put everything on.
I've not yet gotten any money yet. I think they made most of the ones that teachers put in free, and indeed I gave up on the idea after about 90 quizzes. But there are some companies they've recruited that have large numbers of quizzes that are that do cost. They have, they have the British curriculum on it. They have the Cambridge skills, I think at the GS level, on it. So for us, for U.S. history, that doesn't work real well. Apparently, they don't require a year of U.S. history in Great Britain. On the other hand, some of my colleagues that teach math and teach grammar in the middle school, it's the same thing. That there are some Quizalize quizzes made from European teachers that work quite well on this side of the Atlantic.
So this is kind of slow. I just put in AP Psychology, so it might take a while. But what I want you to do is just be able to search whatever you want, see what comes up. And, you know, who knows? You put enough in there. And actually, okay, this is one I just used. And I just wanted the first couple, we were just reviewing for the final exam for AP Psych, but I wanted a specific quiz that was really the first units because we had been away from those the longest. So that's one of mine, but you can see there's a bunch of everybody else on there. And I did ask, like, oh, can I put the AP Psychs, you know, some standards on here? They were really open. They didn't know anything about that, but they are real open. Like Kevin said, I've been talking back and forth with Daisy for the last 2 weeks, you know. So they'll answer any question. They'll try to do whatever they can for you. And usually they take your suggestions and try to go as far as they can with it. So I'm guessing we will see more standards that they will kind of put in as time goes on, but definitely ask for whatever you want and see if they give it to you. So that's my thought on that.
I had one thing on the standards. They had just announced that they had made some changes because they're always making changes.
Yeah, that's true. Every time I go on, there's something different. But usually it is an improvement, so that's good.
Here is what they just recently did. Well, I thought I had it here, maybe not.
I think you did have it on there because maybe.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, they are beta testing standards, and you can see they have listed the United Kingdom National Curriculum, Common Core, and the Singapore syllabus. For Common Core, they just have math right now. But, you know, they have been, I think they're very aware by several people, including me, telling them this is what you really need. You know, they got the idea of Common Core. These are the things you really need, that if you have these, you'll get more interest. I looked at Common Core math. It looks like then, if I was making math questions, I could link each of them to one of the Common Core math standards, and those would be my subtopics, which would be really nice. A couple other asides. One, we really like using this, and a lot of people in our department and the middle schools do. So one of our lower reasons for presenting is so all of you will use this, or many of you will use this and make quizzes and post them, and then we can use your quizzes.
So please do it.
That would be a big one.
Yeah, and you want to mention something about Zish, so they know what in
Sure.
the world that is if they run into it.
Zish is where this came from. Quizalize came from. Zish is a dashboard. The former Google Europe person came upon this idea that there are hundreds of really good educational apps out there that people make, but the people that make them on a shoestring, and they don't have $1 million to make a web presence to park the app in. So Zish is the app. When you look at all of the reports for Quizalize, that's in Zish. Quizalize is more of an app. It's a very sophisticated app, and Zish is a very sophisticated dashboard. So every now and then, you might all of a sudden, instead of seeing Quizalize at the top of the screen, see Zish. That's okay. They're making the two interact much, much better. But there are other apps, a growing number of apps that are starting to use Zish. Let me just go very, very quickly as I see we're about out of time. You're okay on time. Okay.
We just had, whoa, sorry, we just had another question come in. If there's a way to filter the marketplace results by grade level or span.
I'm a content person. I haven't tried grade level yet.
I'm not sure about that.
I think just a longer search, but sorry.
I'm sure that they probably could, because I think it's not quite like the other ones on the grade levels, but I believe that you can at least maybe by like middle school, high school. I'm not sure more than that.
And if there isn't, the person might consider going down to that box in the bottom right-hand corner and asking them. I've had them change things for me. Originally, you couldn't have text and space between your question on the text. And I had emailed them or texted them off the bottom, and he said, well, give me a minute, let me see what I can do. And then he emailed me, try Shift Enter now. I tried Shift Enter, and I said, did you just fix that? He said, yeah, that was an easy one, Mr. Neal. That wasn't hard at all. So, that might be something that is just changing their algorithm a little bit. Just quickly on the web mix here then, this is just a list of stems that one can use on multiple choice questions to perhaps take them to a little bit higher level. And nothing tricky about this. I looked at the stems on a couple of AP US multiple choice and took all the stems off and tried to sort them. Is this an analytical stem? Is it contextual? And it just makes it, I think, a lot easier to write multiple choice questions with some really good stems in front of you to do so. Over here, these are really good sources for multiple choice questions. Many states have tests, content-based, and New York Regents is incredibly good. Sources for DBQs. These are from the University of Texas, just examples of different ways to make multiple choice questions at higher level. And then these are just some other skill kinds of things. Lastly, 3 quick advertisements. I'll do the first 2 and let Diane do the third one. The James Madison Memorial Fellowship Foundation, I'm sure most of you are familiar with, each year gives fellowships of up to $24,000 for teachers to get a master's degree focusing on study of the Constitution. It was set up by an act of Congress. It's funded by a trust. It will be there forever. That's just a link to the foundation site. I think this competition, one has to put in an application to be considered. I think it's in March. Second, of many different NEH landmarks, there's one at Delta State University on the blues. It's an excellent one. Cleveland, Mississippi is assumably where the first blues performance took place. There's an International Blues Museum. They run a symposium each year on the blues. Additionally, beginning last summer, they now offer 4 classes that if you take them and pass all 4, they give you the designation of an International Blues Scholar. So they have an online class on psychology of hip hop and the blues literature, an English class, sociology of the blues, social class, and then a history class on the modern American history of the 20th century South. What they did last year was if you took all 4, you were given a very robust scholarship. I was fortunate to be able to have time to take them last summer. For the 12 hours of graduate credit, I paid $1,035. You can take them separately, and if you take them separately, the cost goes up to their regular price.
Yeah. And then Victims of Communism, just really quick. Kevin and I both got to go to that last year for its first year out in D.C. There were 2 different sessions. We went at different times, but it is excellent. And it was also on the link that just came out through social studies. I don't know, they give us a long list of a lot of different opportunities, but they do a wonderful job of going back through the history, bringing in wonderful speakers. We also went to some places in D.C. I don't know, Kevin, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just a very, very great, very fine experience. Oftentimes, I've done a lot of communism workshops, and it's always George Kennan and Dean Acheson and Yalta, which is great, but this is really viewing communism from a bottoms up, from how people were affected in communist regimes, how they still are, and how people are affected in tyrannical regimes. So it was a very different view of a topic. I think a very, very good perspective.
And you get tons of free books, which is what I always love. So that was a really good week. Questions that you have. I feel like this just went off. Questions that you might have for us over Quizalize or how to use it. It's one of those deals where you just got to almost get in there and work around in it. But you can do it so quickly and so easily that I'm hoping that it's helpful to you. So.
Lastly, then, if you haven't used, if you're not talented at making web pages, and you haven't used Symbaloo, that's just a Symbaloo web mix, and the only skills you need are left click, right click, copy, paste. So you can make something like that as quickly as you can click, and that's kind of my go-to thing if I need to put a bunch of links together. It is incredibly easy to use, and students can make their own too.